The way that you garner respect is by doing the work that you committed to doing and then letting the results speak for themselves. So you don't need to go to your boss and say, hey boss, didn't I do such a good job? That's desperate. That's needy. That actually, in a lot of ways, can undermine respect. But if you just put your head down, nose to the grindstone, get to work, follow through on what you say you're going to do, and then achieve the results, people will see that. I promise you. You don't need to be flapping your gums at them. People will see that and they will treat you accordingly. You've all heard of love languages, whether it's words of affirmation, gift giving, physical touch, quality time, et cetera, et cetera. And while I think there's some value to that, I would suggest to you that the love language of men is respect. Now, sure, I like to be touched physically by the woman in my life. I like words of affirmation. I like gifts. I like quality time. I like acts of service. I like all of that. But if you want to get to the root of what a man really wants and desires in his life, it's a level of respect from not only his romantic interest, but also his friends and colleagues and coworkers and everybody else. So today I'm going to talk with you about 9 things that you can do to garner and gain more respect in the right way. This is not about manipulation. This is not about gaming the system or making people think you're better or different than you are. This is about true respect. Now, granted, there is a baseline level of respect that I believe that I and others should give to everybody unless they prove otherwise that they're worthy of it. But if you want to get ultimate maximum respect from your wife, your colleagues, your clients, your friends, your coworkers, your kids, follow these 9 steps to the T, and you will certainly achieve that. All right, let's break it down. Number 1, boundaries. Men, you've heard me talk about boundaries ad nauseum. I talk about it all the time. If you don't know what you will tolerate and what you won't, if you're not willing to communicate that effectively with other people, if you're not willing to uphold that with other people, there is no level of respect that people will have for you. You are going to be run roughshod over. You're going to be manipulated. You're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to be discarded. You're going to be overlooked. You're going to miss promotions. Your wife isn't going to have any respect for you. You're certainly not going to get laid. Your kids aren't really going to care what you have to say. Your clients are going to move to the next person who offers a better deal. You have to have boundaries. I know for recovering nice guys like myself, it's difficult to think about the way people will treat you, the way you expect people to treat you, but more importantly, the way that you communicate it, and when they overstep those boundaries, how to actually tell them that's a boundary that I have. I get that it's difficult, but I will say that the first time you do it is the most difficult. And every time you uphold a boundary from there, it's much easier. So if you and your wife are having a disagreement, and she starts to raise her voice or starts to belittle you or berate you, that's not acceptable. And you don't need to badmouth her. You don't need to get super defensive. You don't need to go on the offensive, which is what a lot of guys will do because they feel threatened. Very simply, it's, hey, we're not going to talk to each other like that. Now, that's hard. Again, for a recovering nice guy who's never said anything like that, he's worried about the risk of alienating the relationship, making it more strained than it needs to be. But I'll tell you what, every time I've done that, it makes the discussion better and it improves the level of respect that I have from other people. The way you do it is important. If I get defensive and I yell back and say, don't talk to me like that, that's not what I'm suggesting. But if you very clearly and calmly suggest, hey, I won't be talking to you like that, let's bring the temperature down. I've done this personally. I've done this professionally. It works every time. Hey, we're going to bring the temperature down. You're not going to yell at me. I'm not going to yell at you. You're not going to berate me or belittle me or make me feel foolish. I'm willing to have this discussion with you, but here's the guidelines. Here are the parameters in which we can have this discussion. If you can do that, great. We'll have the discussion. If you can't, not interested. Another way to establish boundaries is with your time. I think about this quite often. You know, people will message me in the evening or ask for things outside of my work hours. I don't do that. Within reason. Of course, I make exceptions. So I want to be clear on that. But for the most part, everybody knows my hours. If somebody messages me outside of hours for something professionally, I'm very simply going to say, hey, I acknowledge your request and I'll get back with you tomorrow midday. And then I do it. But I don't make other people's problems my priority because they're not. Now, there are, again, exceptions. If one of my children, for example, I get a message or a call from my ex-wife and she says, hey, your son broke his leg today at school. Of course, I'm going to put everything down, run over to the hospital, make sure he's good. There's exceptions to that. But for the most part, yeah, if people make requests of me and I've got a to-do list with my battle planner right here, a mile long, if it doesn't fit into this plan, I'm not doing it. That's not to say I won't serve and help where I can and where appropriate, but this is the priority. When I get this battle plan done and I do my task list, I'm much more productive for everybody else. But I don't let people dictate what my schedule is. I dictate what my schedule is. And if people start to cross that boundary, very simply, hey, I'm not going to do that right now. I don't ever lie, by the way, too. A lot of guys will lie. They'll say, I can't do that. That's a lie. You can do it. You're choosing not to. I won't be able to do that. That's also a lie. You are able to do it, but you're choosing not to. So the honest answer is, no, I'm not going to do that right now. I have other things that need to get accomplished, but I can do that tomorrow at noon. How does that sound? Because if you want to develop and build an additional level of respect than the baseline, you have to be honest. You can't lie to people. It actually sounds weak. When I say to somebody, hey, this weekend, can you bring your truck over and help me move some things around? And they say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I know you can. I absolutely know that you can, but you're choosing not to. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It means that you maybe had date night planned with your wife or a vacation you're going on, or you were planning on watching the football game that's important to you. But just be honest about it. If it's the football game, say, hey, you know what? The football game is on from 2 to 5. And so I can either do it before or after, but that's an important game for me and I want to watch that game. I can either live with that or not, but I know that my level of respect for you will go up when you're honest about what your priorities are and you clearly communicate those things with me, which leads me into point number 2, which is effective communication. We are horrible, horrible communicators. And anytime that I get frustrated with somebody, interpersonal communication, or even if it's on social media, I try as best I can to give them the benefit of the doubt and just assume that they're not probably a horrible person. They're just not good at communication, just like me. I was talking with a good friend of mine. He's in the Iron Council, and we were talking about communication. And I'm trying to be a little bit discreet about this because it is his personal situation, so I'm not going to disclose all the details, but he is trying to improve the way that he shows up for his family and the way he presents and communicates and shows up for the people he loves. And because he's trying to be more mature and not get into emotional outbursts, not getting into a shouting or a rage match, his wife has begun to interpret it as apathy. Because he's not getting fired up and worked up, and this is new for her, she almost assumes that it's a lack of interest or care. And so she might say something like, well, what's wrong with you? You don't seem like you care. And he might say, well, I'm fine. That's not great communication. The best, even though you might actually be fine, I think that if you want to build connections and relationships with other people, you do owe them a little bit of an explanation, especially if it's changed behavior. So in this case, we were talking about it, and I said, hey, instead of saying you're fine, why don't you say the truth? And the truth is, I'm trying to respond more positively. I'm trying to be more mature. I'm trying to be more level-headed. I don't want you to think I'm uninterested, but I'm trying to stay above the yelling and the shouting and the hostility towards each other in some ways. That is completely acceptable. And I think that actually gives the other party something to go on. Don't you guys hate it when your wife says, I'm fine? You say, hey, babe, what's wrong? You seem like agitated or sore. I'm fine. Number one, she's not fine universally. And number two, that gives you no feedback to even improve the relationship. Now, if she said, hey, you know what? I'm a little upset. I need 10 minutes. Just leave me the hell alone. I can do that. I can leave you alone for 10 minutes. I can leave you alone for an hour. I can let you have your space and your time, but like, help me. Give me some feedback. Give me something to go on. If like, I had a really bad day. The kids were jerks and smeared poop on the walls and crayons everywhere and, painted the dog with a can of spray paint they found out in the garage. I just need a minute. Like, just please leave me alone. I can do that. We can all do that. But you have to communicate it. And the same goes for you. When you get home and you're agitated and frustrated about work, instead of just saying, I'm fine, just leave me alone. I'm fine. Maybe communicate. Hey, babe, look, rough day at the office. Boss yelled at me, lost a big client, didn't get that bid, et cetera, et cetera. I need 30 minutes. I'm going to run outside. I'm going to just do a lap around the property, or I'm going to just think, or I'm just going to tinker in the garage for about 30 minutes. It's not that I don't want to be here. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I'm not excited to be home. I just need 30 minutes. That's honesty. And that's the truth. And somebody who loves you like your wife or your kids will understand that if you get done within 30 minutes and you come back and you're in a much better place. But don't cut people short, especially the people that you care about. If you're frustrated with your wife, tell her in a respectful way. If you're frustrated with your kids, tell them in a respectful way. If you're frustrated with life and you're taking it out on your clients or your boss or your colleagues or your coworkers or your friends, tell them what is going on so they have something to operate on. And I think most people are more than willing to acquiesce to your standards, to your requests, if you communicate them effectively. Let's get into point number 3. Following through on your commitments. And what I would say here is that when you make a commitment, you don't need to proclaim that to anybody. A lot of guys do this. I've done this. Babe, it's the end of the year. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. I'm going to lose 15, 20, 30 pounds, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm amazing and everything else. You don't proclaim that. Now, you might share your goals with her and how you're going to do it in your plans, but you're not doing it to get acknowledgement, notoriety, recognition, etc. from her. You just have to do it. And then you let the actions speak for themselves. So if you said to yourself, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months, and then you actively get at doing it instead of just telling her like, oh, I couldn't today because I'm tired, or the gym was closed, or I forgot my key to the gym. That's not going to garner you any respect. In fact, it's going to do the exact opposite. Keep your mouth shut and do the work. And guess what? The next time you hop out of the shower and you're down 15 pounds, you don't need to say a thing. She's going to look at it and say, he looks pretty good. When your clothes don't fit anymore, you need to punch a new hole in your belt because it's starting to tighten it up a little bit. That's the thing that's going to speak louder than you saying, I'm doing a good job, right? That's not how you garner respect from people. The way that you garner respect is by doing the work that you committed to doing and then letting the results speak for themselves. So you don't need to go to your boss and say, hey, boss, didn't I do such a good job? That's desperate. That's needy. That actually, in a lot of ways, can undermine respect. But if you just put your head down, nose to the grindstone, get to work, follow through on what you say you're going to do, and then achieve the results, people will see that. I promise you. You don't need to be flapping your gums at them. People will see that, and they will treat you accordingly. They might not blatantly come out and say, hey, you've done a really good job. But I'll guarantee if you lose 15 or 20 pounds, your wife is going to be more inclined to be intimate with you. She might not say you look so good. She might, but she might not say it. But I guarantee she's going to initiate a little bit more. Your boss might not say, hey, you've done such a great job over the past quarter and just really appreciate your hard work and your efforts. But you know what? He might offer you a raise, or he might give you another task or a project or an assignment to test if you're ready. Our actions speak louder than our words. So don't worry so much about telling people all the good and wonderful things you're going to do or did do or everything else. Let your results speak for themselves. Number 4, a lot of guys miss this one because we think it's gay. We do. and that is to present well. There's a couple of different categories I wrote down here. Number one, it's your dress and your appearance. Number two, it's your manners. Let me back up. Number one is your dress. Number two are your manners or mannerisms. Number three is your appearance. And then number four is your vocabulary. So let's break this down briefly into each one of these. Your dress. Are you dressed appropriately? Now, every time I bring up attire and dress, people say, oh, real men don't care about. That's not true at all. If you really didn't care about what you looked like, you'd go out buck naked to your client appointments, to work, to interactions with your family, because that's obviously the most comfortable. But you do care. And you did pick out a pair of pants today. And you did put on the shoes that you bought. And you did put that shirt over your head and through your arms. Why did you pick that color? Why did you pick that fit? Why did you pick that style? Because you believed, whether accurate or inaccurate, that effectively communicated what you wanted it to communicate. Now, some guys will say, well, I don't care. I just put on a pair of ratty jeans and dirty jeans and I don't care. That actually means you care. Because you put on a ratty pair of jeans because you want it to say something about yourself. What do you want it to say? That I don't care. Everything that you put on is an indicator of what and who you are and what you believe. Now, I'm not telling you need to dress like James Bond and have a 3-piece suit on in every interaction. I don't. Look, I'm wearing an Order of Man windbreaker. I've got our new Order of Man hat on. I've got an Order of Man logo over this shoulder right here. Clearly, I'm not in a 3-piece suit, but this is very appropriate for the conversation that I'm having with you guys. I wouldn't wear this snowboarding or skiing because I'll freeze my balls off. I wouldn't wear this if I'm going on a very romantic date with my girlfriend. I'm probably going to dress hopefully a little nicer and maybe do my hair. But if I'm going over there to lounge and to hang out and enjoy each other's company, I actually might put on a nice pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt because that's what the situation calls for. But you need to be very aware of what you're wearing and what it says about you. Number two, your mannerisms. Are you rude? Are you brash? Are you arrogant? Are you braggadocious? Are you obnoxious because you think that's what people want to hear? Or are you polite and respectful and gracious and caring and empathetic towards other people? Now we can adapt depending on the circumstance. If I'm up doing a sales presentation or standing in front of 500 people or 1,000 people or 5,000 people and doing a keynote speech, it's going to be different than the way that I might communicate one-to-one with one of my children. I can adapt. I'm a grown man. I can adjust. I can read the room, so to speak, and decide how I'm going to respond based on what the environment and the situation calls for. But your mannerisms are crucial. Are you crude? Are you gross? Are you obnoxious when you shouldn't be? If you are, consider that. What's your language look like? I've got really good friends in the realm of self-development that they swear all the time. Like, why are you swearing? I do too, by the way, and I try to catch myself, and that's actually something I'm working on. But when I hear guys just dropping the F-bomb like it's every part of speech and it's every other word, I can't help but think, does this guy not have anything better to do or say other than drop fillers like the F-bomb or swear words, ahs? Swear words are in the same category. You hear their podcasts, and some of you have even called me out on. I try to be aware of when I'm swearing, and I'm not saying don't swear, but maybe use it intelligently to get your message across or to get a point across. That's more powerful than just saying the F-bomb every third word. What are your mannerisms saying about who you are and how you show up? Appearance. It's not just your dress, but it's your physical appearance. Are you fat and bloated and tired and out of shape and lazy? Like, does it look like you're a chipmunk with a bunch of acorns in your cheeks and you're trying to walk around telling people why they should be disciplined or why they should trust you to handle their personal needs as a client? Like, if I go into, for example, a financial advisor and he's fat and he's gross and he's out of shape and he hasn't shaved for a few days and he looks like a freaking train wreck and he's telling me about being disciplined with my money, pardon me if I don't really quite believe him. But if I go in there and he's got, a beard and it's manicured and it's groomed and he's got a good fitting pair of pants on and a jacket on, and he's respectful and his office space is clean and not just a bunch of clutter and bull crap everywhere, yeah, I'm going to be more prone to have some respect for that individual. One place this shows up really well is if I randomly happen to get into a friend or acquaintance's car, maybe I want to ride with that person or whatever, and they have to clear off their seat and get all the bullshit out of there. There I go, swearing again, but get all the bull crap out of there. Like, that doesn't garner respect. If on the other hand, I see that I open the door, the seat's clear, there's no Big Mac or sausage McMuffin wrappers sitting on the floorboards as I try to step into this person's car who I want to build a relationship with, I'm more likely to respect that person. I can hear it a little bit now. People are like, oh, you shouldn't judge. You say that all you want. Every single one of us judge. If I see a guy who's overweight, I'm going to judge. If I get into a person's car and it's gross and it smells bad and there's wrappers everywhere, I'm going to judge. If I go into somebody's office and it looks like a train wreck and they've got paperwork and clutter everywhere, I'm going to judge that person's probably not real organized. You are too. I know the Christian thing is to say, don't judge. You do. All of us do. So use it to your advantage. And then the fourth component of this is your vocabulary. And part of that is swearing. We talked about that a little earlier. And I'm not saying that swearing is bad, by the way. But again, read the room. If I'm with a bunch of military members, LEOs, swearing is par for the course and it's probably going to be okay. But if I'm in a room full of ladies or I'm with my girlfriend and her daughter or my children, I'm going to try to refrain from swearing. Not that I don't. I certainly do. But I'm going to try to refrain or at least limit the swearing because I care about what those people think of me. And that is the ultimate root of this. Do you care about that person? Modern culture says, don't care about anybody, zero F's, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. That's stupid. That is so arrogant and ridiculous. And it's not doing you any service. I do care about what people think of me, the right people. I don't care about what the wrong people think about me, but the right people, my girlfriend, her daughter, my kids, you guys listening, I care about what you think, which helps me to be more presentable in a way that resonates with you. All right, let's move on to number 5, consistency, guys. It's very easy to listen to this podcast or, we're on the eve of a new year to say, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to make 100,000 more this year than I did last year. I'm going to go run that marathon. I'm going to find a new woman. I'm going to whatever, fill in the blank. That's easy. That is so easy to do. In fact, you can post that all over social media. I'm going to run a marathon this year. And everybody will congratulate you as if you've actually done something. What did you do? You used your fat thumbs to type in some update on Facebook that you have no intention of following through on. And everybody's going to give you the praise and accolades and the notoriety that comes with actually running the marathon. You have to be consistent. It's not enough to be good for a week. Anybody can do that. Sometimes when I'm working out, I might have 30 seconds of a plank that I need to hold. I need to hold for an additional 30 seconds. And in my mind, I'm shaking and trembling, and I've already done it for a minute and a half. And I'm like, I don't know if I can make 2 minutes. And I'm just trembling as I'm doing this plank. And I see that little clock and it says 30 seconds. I can do anything for 30 seconds. You can do anything for a day longer. If you're trying to diet and lock in that weight and you're tempted at the end of the night after a long, hard day to just gorge yourself on Oreo cookies and goldfish. Goldfish are my go-to. Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are my go-to. Triscuits too. Cheez-Its and Triscuits. If you're tempted to gorge yourself on that, just tell yourself, hey, anybody can go for another 12 hours. I'm not going to eat that now. I'm going to go for 12 more hours. Anybody can do that. You can do that. But you have to be consistent. A lot of the times I hear from guys who are like, hey, Ryan, I'm really trying to rekindle the relationship I have with my wife. We've been on the rocks for 3 years and it's been a struggle and she's feeling it and I'm feeling it and it's heavy. And I've been doing all these things for the last 30 days and she doesn't even acknowledge or appreciate what I'm doing. Bro, you spent a decade treating her like garbage. You spent a decade not following through on your commitments. Forgive me if I don't believe that you just won't revert right back to the way you were after 30 days. Do that for a year. Do that for 2 years. Hell, do it for a quarter. Do it for 90 days, and then maybe I'll start taking you more seriously. But nobody owes you their blind allegiance because you're changing this week or because you were really good the last 24 hours. I don't care. You spent the last 24 years proving to me otherwise. I'm sorry, 24 hours ain't going to cut it for me in believing that you've actually changed. Be consistent. Show up day in and day out, regardless of the results, regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether or not people acknowledge it. Just show up and be consistent. Number 6, character. When I was younger, I remember a very specific example. My stepfather asked me to, I think one of the dogs had dug a hole in the grass. And as I was mowing the lawn, that was part of my job, mow the lawn every Saturday morning. He said, hey, Ryan, I'd like you to fill that hole that the dog dug, go out to the back and just cut a little piece of sod out there, fill the hole, put that sod in, make it look nice, cut it right. And he gave me the proper instruction. I got done with mowing the lawn and I was like, I'm so tired. It's hot. This is miserable. And so I grabbed a piece of sod. It wasn't cut to the right size. And I just kind of like threw it on top of the hole. No dirt, nothing else. Just threw it on top of the hole. And I go inside and I'm like, hey, I just got that lawn mowed. He's like, oh, cool. Good job. Did you get that hole filled? I'm like, yeah, I got the hole filled. He's like, good. Let's take a look. And immediately my heart sunk because I didn't do it right. And I knew I didn't do it right. And we go out there and he's like, he sees the hole with a piece of grass on the top. And he's like, Ryan, he said, character is what you do when no one's looking. And he walked back inside. And my heart sunk even lower than it already was. And he was right. Because had he not checked, I would have been okay with the work that I did. And so I went out to the back of the property. I shoveled 2 or 3 scoops of dirt. I put it in there. I packed it down. I did it right. I cut the piece of grass the right way and I put it in there and did it the right way, which is what I should have done the first time. But that's what character is. I wrote a couple of things down here. Character is putting your shopping cart away. I get it. You ran into Walmart, you got a bunch of stuff, the kids are screaming, your baby's crying, you need to get home, you've got things to do, and it's like, okay, load the shit up and then just like put the shopping cart wherever. No. It's character. Now, it's easy to say when it comes to getting more respect that people won't see that, but I promise you they are. Your kids are watching you. The things that you don't think they're observing, they are. Your clients are watching you. Your boss is watching you. The people at work are watching you. There are eyes on you all the time. And even if there weren't, doing the right thing is the right thing. The other day where was I? Oh, I was at the gym. I was at the gym working out, and pretty typically, most gyms will ask you to wipe down your equipment when you're done. And the gym that I go into has little stations with wet wipes scattered throughout the gym to make it convenient and easy. And so I got done on a machine. I can't remember which one it was. And I walked over to the little wet wipe station and I grabbed a wet wipe out of there and I started to wipe down my machine, and I looked over and there was a wet wipe, a dried wet wipe sitting under the machine. Is that my responsibility? No. I didn't put it there. I didn't leave it there. They have employees that will clean up. So it's easy to say, that's not my job. It's not my responsibility. You're right. You're not wrong. That isn't your responsibility. But what if you just bent over and just picked up that piece of trash? I mean, you're going to walk by a trash can anyways. As my friend Andy Frisilla would say, If you go into the toilet and you pee all over the toilet seat, just wipe the toilet seat up. Why wouldn't you do that? It's picking up the trash. It's wiping down the toilet seat. It's making the environment better than it was when you got there. And if I leave from my gym session and I know that that is a better place when I leave than when I got there, I feel pretty good about myself. And that's how you develop respect. All right, let's move to number 7. Motive. I talked a little bit about this. Your motive should always be, I do the right thing. My friend and co-host with the Ask Me Anything on this podcast often talks about doing the right thing regardless of the outcome. But most people, myself included, and I would say him too in some instances, will filter the right decisions through whether or not it's going to produce a favorable outcome. And I would suggest, and I think he would too, Kip, would say that that's not the right way to look at it. If it's the right thing to do, the outcome really doesn't matter. If, for example, I see a friend of mine who happens to be struggling with addiction or depression or infidelity, just having a hard time in life, and I see it, and I see him struggling, I have a couple of different choices. One is I don't say anything. I let it ride. I don't want to make it awkward. I don't want to make it weird. I don't want to alienate our relationship. I don't want him to think less of me. I don't want to get into a fight. That's one option. It's valid because those are real concerns. Option 2 is you actually address it. Hey, man, I see you struggling with addiction or temptation. I see the way that you're flirting with our coworker and you're married. And I would just advise you to be careful because I care about you and I care about your marriage. That's risky because you could potentially alienate the relationship. In fact, you likely will. If you call another man out and say that, like let's say you got a coworker and you know he's married, you know him, you know his wife, you know his kids, and he's flirting with the secretary a little too much, and you say something, the likelihood is him getting defensive. That is more likely than him being receptive to what you're about to share. But if it's the right thing to do, it really doesn't matter if you put the relationship at risk. Now, you're not going to go call his wife and rat him out, but you're going to address him like a man and say, hey, man, you've been married for 15 years. You've got a beautiful wife. You've got an incredible family. You've got 2 kids at home. You've got 1 on the way. What the hell are you doing? I love you. I care about you. So you can't be doing this, and you need to rein it in. That's what a respectable man would do. And he may not appreciate it initially, but it's the right thing to do. So let's stop filtering our decisions through what might or might not happen. And as I say this, I know a lot of guys are going to think to themselves, well, what about this? And what? No, you're filtering. What you're doing is you're rationalizing and you're justifying things that you know you should do or should not do. Don't do that. You know right from wrong. You know when you need to speak up. You know when you need to uphold boundaries. You know when you need to communicate to other people, things that are going to be confrontational. Do it. Now, sure, learn the skill of doing it effectively, but do it. It's going to hurt in the short term, and you're going to risk relationships, and people are probably going to be mad at you and frustrated with you. You might alienate even relationships or situations, but you know what? It's the right thing to do, and I believe with every fiber of my being that doing the right thing, and I'm not saying I always do the right thing, but I will tell you that every time I've done the right thing, even though there's a short-term pain associated with it, there's a long-term gain. Even if it means that I can just look myself in the mirror, that's enough for me. All right, let's go to number 8. Then we got 2 more. So we got 8 and 9. Number 8 is the Confidence-Competence Continuum. I've been doing this for over almost 10 years now. And one of the reoccurring themes that I hear from a lot of guys is, how do I build confidence? And they think that it's just some miraculous decision that they need to make. Like, I just need to be confident. I don't think that's how it works. The way confidence works is that it's a byproduct of competence, which is a byproduct of courage. So if you can be courageous in your actions, whether it's confronting somebody that needs to be confronted in a tactful way, in an appropriate way, or whether it's taking on that new business venture, or asking for a promotion, or asking that beautiful woman out on a date, or asking for her hand in marriage, that requires courage. And when you have courage and you start to do those things, like asking clients for their business or asking clients for a referral, what ends up happening, because you're exhibiting courage, is you develop some competency. A lot of guys, for example, are not great with women. They don't know how to talk to attractive women. They see an attractive woman, their heart beats and it's beating out of their chest, and they get weird and awkward and say dumb things. That happens a lot. But the more women you talk with, the less likely it is that you're going to be scared or nervous or awkward in front of an attractive woman. It's the competence cycle. And then what happens, because you exhibited courage, and because of that courage, you develop some level of competency, the byproduct, courage plus competence equals confidence. You don't get to manufacture it. You can manufacture ego, arrogance, pride. All of that can be manufactured, but you cannot manufacture confidence. It has to be earned. And it's an equation: courage, competence. So if you do something long enough and you do it well and you're humble about the way that you learn and you get better and you develop, the confidence will come. But that's not easy. Like, how does a grown man look himself in the mirror and he's 50 pounds overweight and say, I'm good with where I am? He's lying to himself. He's not good with that. He doesn't want to take his clothes off in front of his wife. He doesn't want to walk by the mirror in the public restroom while he's at work. He doesn't want to sit down because he knows his gut is going to hang over his waistline. And he knows that. You don't think that's impacting you? Of course it's impacting you. But if you go to the gym every day and you bust your tail and you're conscious about what you eat, as I get older, 43 years old, I got to be more conscious than I ever have. I've been on a fitness journey, I would say, over the past, I've been going hard now for the past, I would say 60 days. And I'm losing weight. And I'm getting stronger. And guess what comes with it? Confidence. But I could not have manufactured that. I could have manufactured ego, arrogance, pride, all those other things, but not confidence. All right, and the last one here, guys, is in order to develop and get more respect from other people, is you have to make decisions. We don't like to make decisions because it's scary. Because when you make a decision, it's either right or wrong. It will either work or it won't work. And if it works, all praise to you. If it doesn't work, you're going to be thrown under that bus. And that's the risk. And you have to ask yourself, if I want to gain more respect from other people, am I willing to risk making the wrong decision? Now, here's the beautiful part. Most of the decisions that we make in life are not life and death. If your wife says to you, hey, hon, let's go out on a date. Where do you think we should go? And you suggest a place, it's not life or death. Because she's a big girl too, and she could say, yeah, that sounds good. Or she could say, I don't really like that place. Do you have any other thoughts? Don't ever defer to anybody else. Don't. Get that out of your system. If somebody asks you something, hey, where would you like to eat? Never say, I don't know what sounds good to you. That person asked you. They didn't ask you to determine what they think they should eat. They asked you for a reason. So be a man and say, I'd really like to go to In-N-Out tonight. Or I'd really like to take you to that steakhouse. Or, sushi sounds pretty good today. Trusting that they're a big person, they're an adult, a grown woman or a grown man, and they can say, you know what, sushi doesn't sound good. Do you have any other thoughts? As a matter of fact, I do. I'd like to go to the Hawaiian grill place that we like. And then you can allow people to say yes or no. but make decisions. If your wife says to you, hey, what do you think about how we're raising the kids? Like our son seems to be struggling. Give her an answer. Like, stop beating around the bush. If she says, what should we do? What should we get the kids for Christmas? Give her an answer. I'm not suggesting it's the right one all the time, but give her an answer. Damn. If she says, how do you feel about? Be honest. We talked about honesty earlier. Hey, how do you feel about me taking this new job? If you're not excited about it, tell her that. Hey, I'm not really excited about it. I think that there's some concerns I have about the stability of the job or whether or not you'll like doing it. I'm open to being wrong on it, but that's how I feel. The people who communicate effectively and assert themselves, not in a power trip, egotistical, arrogant kind of way, but just a very assertive, bold, authentic kind of way, are the people who gain respect. And the people in my life can tell me no. And if they say no, I accept it. You know, my girlfriend says to me, hey, what would you like for dinner? And I say, I really want to go to Benja's. I love their sushi. And she's like, I'm not feeling sushi. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, how about we go up to the first place that we ever went on a date and we go up to Cliffside? And she's like, yeah, that sounds better. That's way better than her saying, hey, where'd you like to eat? You're like, I don't really know. I want to eat. That's weak. That is not leadership. If your boss comes to you and says, hey, you know what, man, this project didn't go as well as I could have gone. Do you have any insight? Instead of saying, I don't know, I really haven't thought of it. I don't know what we should do. You said, you know what? Here's what I think we messed up on. We didn't have enough capital invested in the project. We didn't have enough time to get it done. We didn't have the right suppliers. And so that's what I think. And if we want to do this again, here's what I suggest. Who gets more respect? The guy that asserts himself, always. So start making decisions. One of the things I get quite often is people reach out and they're like, hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast. We'd like to join me. I'm like, sure, I'd love to join you. And then they'll say, well, cool. Like, when would you like to record? I don't know. Now I tell them because I make decisions. So I say I can record Tuesday at 3 or Thursday at 10. What works best for you? But what would it be like if I said, yes, I'd love to come on your podcast, and they messaged me back and said, great, I have Tuesday from noon to 5 open or Thursday from 8 to 12 open. Do you think I respect that guy more or less than the guy that says, I don't know, what do you think? Like, when would be good for you? Position yourself as an authority, as somebody who's sure of themselves, as somebody who has control over their calendar. Because that's what people read into. When you're like, I don't know, what do you think? I can do it whenever. What I think is this guy doesn't have anything going on. He can just meet me whenever. Doesn't he have other things to do? That's what I think. And then I'm the one who has to make the decision when you're the one who reached out to me. Make decisions, guys. Be bold. It's okay. Some of you, I was going to say, we're not talking about brain surgery. For some of you, maybe. For some of you, life and death situations. If you're in the military or police or LEO of some sort, yeah, some of that is life and death situation. And you'll gain that through the Confidence-Competence Continuum we talked about, but we have to make better decisions. So those are my 9 things. I feel like I maybe rambled a little bit on those things, but this is crucial. I think if we get this right, we improve so much more about our lives. We make more money. We have deeper, more connection, more intimacy, more wealth, more prosperity, more fulfillment, more enjoyment, more of whatever it is you're after. Let's recap. Number 1, boundaries. Number 2, effective communication. Number 3, following through on commitments. Number 4, presenting yourself well. Number 5, consistency. Number 6, character, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Number 7, your motives for what you're doing. The motive is always, this is the right thing to do, regardless of the outcome. Number 8, the Confidence-Competence Continuum. And number 9, we just talked about it, making decisions, being decisive. All right, guys, I hope that helps. If you want to do more of these things and you want to connect with other men who are respectable and respectful, and they're implementing these 9 things in their lives, then I would encourage you to join the Iron Council. Guys, we open up December 15th, and I'm going to be bold because I told you to assert yourself and make decisions. Join us on December 15th. There's hundreds, if not thousands of you who have heard me talk about the Iron Council, and you're like, I don't know, sounds good, but maybe it's expensive. Like, no, make a decision. Shit or get out the pot, in other words. If you've ever thought, hey, I'm going to give this a try, come give it a try, an honest try for 30 days. And tell me if it doesn't improve your life. Or if you're like, I don't want to do that, then just make the decision that's a no. And that's okay too. But I don't want people sitting on the fence. Yes or no? If it's yes, join us. If it's no, maybe the timing's off, maybe it's not right. Maybe there's something I can help you with or answer a question. I'm happy to do, but we'd love to see more of you in there. This is the last enrollment for 2024. If you go to orderaman.com/Iron Council, you're going to talk about these things with me and other people. You're going to be on a team that holds you accountable. You're going to be holding other people accountable. This is not a one-way street. You're going to be working with other people to hold them accountable and giving back. Go to orderaman.com/Iron Council. All right, gents, we'll be back next week on Tuesday. Until then, go out there, take action, build more respect for yourself, and become the man you are meant to be.